You will know when it's time for you to know. This is the Yoakum Strength Podcast with me, your host, Austin Yoakum. And on this episode of the podcast, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Dowdle. Mark is an ultra marathon runner, an ex-teammate, and a current friend who's trying to complete the challenge of running the Calendar Club every month for an entire year, which entails him running over 500 miles a month and 6,000 this year. Today, Mark talks to us about the lessons he has learned on these runs, what he hopes to accomplish by completing this feat, and why he believes you need to take life one step at a time. This is an amazing conversation with a guy I'm blessed to be able to call my friend. And hopefully it inspires those of you out there who are looking to become who you should become, to pursue a task half as noble as his. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for the continued support of this podcast. Keep chopping wood. Before we hit the intro music, I wanted to introduce to you guys the Yoakum Strength Insider. The Yoakum Strength Insider is our online training platform that takes all of the ideas that we talk about on this podcast and implements them into a program that is available to you at the touch of your fingers. Our goal with the Yoakum Strength Insider is to create better movers, to level up your life, and to move forward from where you are. We do this in a holistic fashion. Not only will you receive a program that has helped hundreds of people become better movers, you'll also receive access to our app that allows you to track everything, has video links for all exercises, and allows you to be in constant communication with a Yoakum Strength coach. Along with this, you'll get our 30-page PDF nutrition and lifestyle guidelines. That includes everything from what to eat, how much of it to eat, why we're eating it, meditation habits, and other lifestyle habits that we implement with our clients to really level up their lives. If you're interested in trying out one of these programs, use podcast 25 in the discount section right before you pay for 25% off your first program. Boom.
This is the Yoakum Strength Podcast. Take the leap down the rabbit hole with us as we interview elite level guests to unravel what high performance really is.
The rants where people introduce themselves to you and they don't say their name back drives me fucking insane. They're like, nice to meet you. And then they don't say their name. And you're like, and you are like, you have to like coach people nowadays on asking like who they are back. It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, and I think also the people that you've met before, and since you and I post a lot on social media, there's an aspect to people when we see them, they know a little bit more about who we are. And so they'll say your name. And I'm like, fuck, I forgot your name. I met you once before, maybe it was 6 months ago. And I'm embarrassed to ask you your name.
Well, I'm all time bad with fucking names. How were you at St. Thomas when you coached at St. Thomas with remembering the freshman's name when they first came in? I guess you only had to do your position, I guess.
Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah.
Position was easy because it was a smaller group, but across the defense, forget about the offense, but across the defense, it was challenging. I'm not gonna lie.
There'd be kids that would come into the session and then we're like 2 to 3 weeks in, bro, I really have to like nail this shit down. But like the kid's been showing up to half the sessions and I just know this kid isn't going to make it through the 4 years here. And so like subconsciously I'm kind of writing it off, and I'm like, man, I should really know your name. And I absolutely do. So it then turns into like the Bud game. Nice lift.
You know who, which is the worst game ever, but you know who's really good at names is Kellen. He is
Kellen. I was gonna say that. He knows fucking everybody. It's unbelievable.
But what he'll say is like he makes it number one priority. And I was thinking about it in the sauna last night, and I was talking to Lucy about it. And if you think about it, the name is the only thing that matters when you remember talking to someone. Because if I don't know anything about you, but you and I have had a previous conversation, all I need to do to open the door to remembering all of those things is say, Austin, how have you been? And then you will fill in the gap of whatever you want to talk about. And so then it'll bring up a whole string of topics that you can touch on. And a simple, like, what have you been up to lately, only lands if you begin with a name. You're usually like, hey, so-and-so, like, or you don't even know their name, like, hey, what's up, man? What you been up to? That's so vague and so impersonal. But if you say, "Hey, Austin, how you been?" There's a different ring to that where it's like, I don't fucking like I don't know you lift or do anything, but you'll talk about that, and then I can ask you questions off of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that's
just feel
true.
like the name is the key to the and open door.
But the other, I remember everything else about a person. So like, I almost, in some sense, I might push back on that a little bit. I'm not saying Kellen's a political type, but what I see is a lot of people play that politic game and they don't fucking listen at all to what the
Yeah,
person's
true,
actually saying or the story that they're sharing. And like, I get
true.
invested in that shit, and then I'm just a moron. But there is definitely a point to where like, if you make it a point to remember your name, you start to remember it. Because I've been
Yeah,
trying to get a lot better at that. Because I know it's like I know I'm a moron, so I know I have to put more effort into remembering it instead of just saying I'm a moron. I'm not going to remember anybody's name. Line I think now is like you're a moron, so you actually have to like either write it down or say it 10 times in your head. Otherwise, you're fucked.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it also helps if you meet that person or you meet them again, calling them their name 2 or 3 times within the first 10 minutes of talking to them, it for me that works. If I meet you and I say your name like 3 times, it lands. It lands.
Yeah, the whole well, I've been doing the thing where it's like you say it in your head, like you're supposed to say it like 3 to 4 times in your head.
I say it out loud because then
That's
it
I
like
like
I
that one
hear
better
it,
because then I'm
you
like
know?
I feel like I'm not present in conversation. But yeah, that was a good start to this topic. Mark, you wanna tell the people what you're doing right now?
Yes. What I'm doing right now, so I am pioneering a running challenge that has never been done before. It's called Calendar Club 365. And it is where I run the number of miles equal to the day of the month for an entire year. So today is January 4th. I will run 4 miles. Tomorrow I'll run 5. The next day, 6, all the way up until 31, where I'll run 31 miles. I started this on May 1st. So I'm on my 9th month. And the goal is to do it for a full year. So April will be the last month of this challenge. No one has ever done it before from the research that I found,
Not even
and
David Goggins.
not even Goggins, not even David Goggins. But it's funny, I was going back and I was like, when was the last time that I spoke with Austin on the pod? And it was May of 2020, like 5 days after I had finished Calendar Club for the first time.
For the month?
For the month, yeah. So this came about because I did Calendar Club. It's a pretty well known thing in the running community to try and do Calendar Club for a month long. And I did it in the month of April of 2020. And one of my buddies, Joe Dixon, who was a St. Thomas guy, Loyola guy, he was busting my balls after the month and said, "Oh, it's real ironic that you chose a 30-day month instead of a 31-day month." And I remember that just sitting in the back of my mind, like, should I just do it again in May just to shove it up his ass type of thing? And at the time, my life wasn't set up where I could accomplish that in any way, but it did always sit in the back of my mind. And so this year when it opened up, any races and Love Like Glory stuff opened up, I was like, let's fucking do a full year.
Yeah, so I guess I haven't even talked to you about this, and we should say, so you and I, like you out in our group every single morning, so I see you every single day. But I haven't really asked you about what was the driving motivation to start this, like for the whole year. Like, where was it like, oh fuck, this is what I'm doing? Were you just doing a calendar club, and then it was like, oh, I could just continue this, or like, where was the like aha moment to this is what I'm gonna do for the next year?
I think so. After the first time I did it in 2020, I realized that this challenge was focused more on like a personal accomplishment and more of like an athletic accomplishment. And at the time, I was listening to a lot of podcasts that Rich Roll was putting out, and he had a lot of ultra athletes on, and they were in their late stages of their career, and they're transitioning out of podium chasing or going for races, winning races, stuff like that. Olympic athletes. I think he had Michael Phelps on at the time, and there was this common theme with athletes who had spent their career competing at high levels, that when they were done, there was this hole missing for them. And a lot of that had to do with meaning, purpose, community, and doing things not just for themselves, but for a greater purpose in mind. And so that's when I transitioned into more of the Love Like Glory style runs, where it was more like, okay, running for this short amount of time has been so solo, and I'm so used to being on sports teams that I miss that camaraderie around being a teammate, being selfless, also putting in work that I know other people are putting in work to reach this greater goal. And so we did 3 years of Love Like Glory, which was our 3-part run series where I ran for days on end to raise money for pancreatic cancer. But after the most recent one, taking 9 days and knowing myself, I would have to double down. Like I couldn't just do another 9-day one. It would have to be 14 days and 1,000 miles. But knowing that I couldn't ask people to take 2 weeks off of work, and I'd be asking a lot of people, I thought that it would be a good time to transition into something more personal where it didn't ask of a lot of people.
Mm.
And I saw this as an opportunity where I didn't have to necessarily take work off. I could do it while also working and still trying to figure out. And I think at the same time, I had this itch of like trying to do something or wanting to do something that had never been done before, and trying to put more of like, who is Mark Dowdle in the ultra world, and how do I create a space that's unique to me?
And one of the things that kind of made me think about too, it's like you hear all the athletes talk about that. You hear it a lot on the back end of their career of like, I wish I would have went more community. I wish I would have went, but like that's after like that post hoc analysis of like at some point in your career, if you want to do something absolutely special, absolutely amazing, you have to go all the way balls in by yourself. Otherwise, there's no way that you're able to go do that. And one of the
Right.
things that just made me think, I just wrote this down. It's like that solo growth of like diving into something like this allows you to be that teammate and allows you to be that leader whenever that branches out for you after this, you
Right.
know? And I think there's such like I think a lot of like, I just see this in a coaching world. Like a lot of people talk about like that community aspect and that aspect. But again, it's always retrospectively. It's like that never the person in the moment is doing that. And Nietzsche talks a lot about that too. It's like the best way to be the best person that you can possibly be is by becoming the best physical person you can possibly be by doing challenges like these, like picking up that rock. And what he was talking about, even way back when he wrote this, is everybody is so focused, like, and it's like this outward focus on the community, like this
Yeah.
outward that is there, because then you
Yeah.
have no personal responsibility for what you are doing in the day to day, because it's
For
all,
sure.
oh, somebody else. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, for who? If I were going to
Yeah.
push you there, like, what's your community? Like, what are you saying there? Whereas in this kind of mission you got there, you're bearing this fucking rock of every single day I am doing this, and you're bringing, not to say you're not bringing people with you or doing anything or building a community that way too, but again, you're starting inward out rather than this kind of. I just feel like I'm getting this feeling where everybody's has this kind of like virtue signaling of outward to start, and there's nothing from them, like from the inward motion for them to bring outward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because community is such a co-opted word, and community now is, there's always a price tag attached to community. And I see that especially in the running influencer world, where it's like, be a part of the best community, the best coaches. And it's like, buy my program. There's always a sell at the end of that. And, I'll be 100% honest, like even in the Love Like Glory stuff. And I remember at the time in the beginning talking to you about it, it's like, it doesn't mean that there's a removal of selfish endeavors in it. Like, I want to see what's possible for me. And running 500 miles in 9 days, there's extreme elements of selfishness. Like, we could have done that and done a marathon, but it's like, no, I had to figure out what was possible for me. But I think what I recall describing is like, it's inevitable that there's going to be elements of selfishness for Mark, but that doesn't mean at the same time there can't be these other elements that you use that to incorporate other people into your journey and the things that you're doing. And I lost my train of thought there, but like essentially that's what it is. It's like, yes, the things I'm doing are selfish. And one thing I noticed, particularly with the calendar club, is I want to find what's possible for me in this challenge, but then also try and help other people find what's possible for them. And I think Landon was such a phenomenal, like, this is probably one of my favorite reflections of this challenge so far, is the fact that when he came out to PR with me, going from 10 or 12 miles to 23 miles, he was posting that on his social media, and then someone from his past life reached out to him to say, hey, I just signed up for my half marathon because I saw you do this. And so it was like that ripple effect of like, because I'm doing something and I brought Landon in, that created a ripple for Landon to bring someone else in. And so I think there's room for me to do selfish things that also create a ripple effect that impact other people without having to be like, so like, oh, community, community, community. Things will take care of themselves if I'm doing what is truly to me.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. It's like the whole, like, you got to become someone, just become someone worth buying, become someone
Yeah.
worth following, become someone worth like being like, rather than, and then just spend all your fucking time on that. Stop spending your time on all this other bullshit where like
Yeah.
community outreach, the networking. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, just become someone worth becoming. And then people, you're going to start that ripple effect regardless. Like, that's going to happen because people are going to look at you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to feel you and be like, oh my God, there's something there that I want to possess there. And again, that's something like this whole, I feel like we've killed God. We've killed inspiration for people. It's like it's a meathead thing to inspire people now. It's like, and it's all like it's because it's weird because it's like it's supposed to be more science. It was like this pseudoscience weird teacher role that we're doing, and nobody is really attracted to that. Whereas,
Yeah.
man, you just inspired Lando to go run by just fucking running. Dude, you
Yeah.
didn't teach him how to run. I mean, that's the same thing we try to do with JST. It's like not teaching him how to do fucking anything. It's just put them in a room full of psychos and then inspire them to become like each other in
Yeah.
this like-minded way, in their own way, and develop that. But man, I just feel like our society is so set on just killing all of that for people. And most of it, and I really believe a lot of this is this weird, like, selfish thing of I'm not inspiring other people. I'm not becoming who I'm supposed to become. I feel bad about that. Let's destroy
Yeah.
everything else that is like being that light for other people.
Yeah. And I don't know. Lucy and I have talked about, like, we have this itch to get out of Minnesota to move west. And one of the few things that's holding me back is JST and Embrace North, because I think what you and Kellen have done such a phenomenal job of is you guys know how to create a culture and community without having to sell the culture of the community.
Mm.
Like, think about how many people have shown up to JST just based off seeing the stories and like game days and just being like, it just looks like a playground and you guys look like you're having so much fun and I want to be a part of that. Like, Kellen, for the first 1.0, like, he wasn't doing any outward advertisement. It was all word of mouth. And so, like, when you can build a business or build a movement where you don't have to tell other people to join your movement because it's the greatest community in the world, but the people that are in the community are doing that for you. Those are the lessons that I'm trying to learn. And that's why it's like, yeah, I think you and Kellen do a phenomenal job of that. And I see that. So that, I mean, why I show up. And so it's like, if I can take those lessons, you can be unstoppable.
Well, that's funny. Somebody just we had Embrace North, and somebody just asked Kellen, "How did you grow this community?" And he's like, "Bro, they just kept talking to each other, and
Yeah.
like kept
Yeah.
showing up,
Yeah.
like people just kept telling people." But it's so true, and I think I talk about this a lot too. It's just like that's what, but it's just what happens when you show people who you are, or not.
Yeah.
In maybe, and a lot of times it's not even who you are fully, but it's like who you want to become and what you
Mm.
believe in. Like it's letting down the who you're supposed to be and just being like, this is what I believe in, this is who I am, and like yes or no. And and that's why it's like, for all the negatives of social media, like I feel like so much, and that's not to say there is no negatives, but a lot of negatives of social media are self-created, because it's like you guys are playing the social media game. Of course
Yeah.
it fucking sucks. You're playing the
Yeah.
curated game. You're playing this, like, you're creating an avatar on there, and we all create avatars, and that's not even just on social media, throughout life. Like we all have different avatars that we're playing throughout different parts of our life, but like we're all playing into that game. If you don't, it's a beautiful tool to curate your life of like, there's not I wipe out 90% of the world's population by just posting what I post because they're not interested and they're
Yeah.
not who I want to surround myself with. And so now I get the pick from the 10%, and then it's super easy because then everybody that shows up is a fucking weirdo that is like, is on the path that we want to be on. And then it kind of grows from there. And then those people, obviously their circle is other people. And I think the really cool thing is getting the edgers. Like I think like Lando is a great example because Lando was, I mean, if we want to talk about growth, 4 or 5 years ago when Lando first joined JST was nothing like he is today. You know, like he was an
Yeah.
edger, and you just surround him with people that can inspire him to be, oh, I can let go of that person. I can let go of who that was. And now he's running fucking merit. Like it's insane. And I
Yeah.
think that's the really cool thing. Cause you and I go into a place, like we're always just fucking weird, you know, like,
Yeah.
we just have that, which is who we are. And we're pretty, I don't even know if it's confident, but we're pretty set in that way. Whereas you have somebody that hasn't been exposed to an environment in which it's okay to be that. And that's where I really think it's cool. Like they go for a run with you and they're like, oh, this dude's fucking a madman. I can go be a madman. I can go do this. And then you're
Yeah.
inspiring other people. I think that's where it gets really, really cool, inspiring those edgers.
Well, a great of attracting weirdos was this morning when we're lifting and you just turn to your right and Mike is kicking the wall and you're like, we're so weird. All of us are so weird. You just got a guy kicking the wall. It's like, what the hell, dude?
Well, and I think the thing is, too, the lesson there is I say we wipe out 90%, but it's like we're all like everybody is that person. I think that's
Yeah.
another thing too. It's like
Yeah.
the more I interact with people and the more just like, and I guarantee you have this, like you get the experiences deep on a deep level as well, because you are very much yourself all the time. Is like the more you are yourself and that self, the more they're like, oh, I can relax. I can let go of that
Mm-hmm.
avatar of who I was playing because I can just be myself and do that. And you're like, oh, all you motherfuckers are weird, bro. All of you. Like it's like
Yeah.
every single person is, even like you St. Thomas people listening, like you're weird. Like you just get to break down that character. And I think that's really cool too, is and giving them that confidence that it's like, okay, you're gonna be okay. And again, the inspiration too, because I think the other thing is like you can't just be, I think there's a part of it where it's hard to say, yeah, just be yourself, bro. And then like some of the psychedelic groups that the psychedelic conference too, it's like the message meant a lot more for me, I guess. I also have a meathead background and like I'm very have that like type A driven thing. So like when I hear that message of just be yourself, bro, from a dude that's like homeless and just doing shrooms on the side, like that's much different than when I'm hearing it from like this dude's a top edge neuroscientist, like doing things that we
Yeah.
could never dream, and then he's saying it. So I think there's a lot to that message too, of again individually making it yourself and then sharing that message rather than just not doing anything with your life and then be like, yeah, bro, the game just sucks, man. It's like, man, you gotta play, you gotta, Naval's thing, you gotta win the game to leave the game. You can't just leave the game before you win it.
Yeah. And I guess to go deeper on that, it's like, yes, I have thought a lot about who I am, but there's also like so much I don't know about my identity and who I am. And I think what's important is where I would get stuck in the past is trying to figure out who I am before sharing that or before going down a path. And now I'm just like, I'm going to share who I am right now
Mm.
because I think like there's so many different versions of Mark that I could be. And so sometimes it's like, well, like I'm thinking about the next 4 or 5 decades of my life, like who am I going to be? And it's like that will change, that better change. And the only way that I'm going to get to that next decade is by just confronting who I am today and how I can take steps forward in that process. I remember when I first started coming to JST, like I told you, I was like, I just want to be able to run when I'm 80 years old. Like I want to be able to run 100 miles when I'm 80 years old. Like that's the long game, And so, however that morphs and changes, great. But yeah, just saying be who you are is such a complicated statement and like
And
four
one of the
words.
things I was thinking about there too, it's like you said, like there's so, especially like this is what I noticed, especially in the evolution periods of your life, where it's like, or the transitional periods of your life from old Mark to new Mark or to current Mark and then to next Mark.
Yeah.
In those transitional periods, I think that is where it's so important to, and I've noticed this so many times. Like I've gone back and looked, I'm like, I've been 7 different Austins throughout my life. And like
Hmm.
it is insane looking back at like an old like football Austin, bro. It's insane. It's like I don't even recognize or remember that person in so many levels. It is like
Yeah.
it's not even that's where it scares me. This to different, but where people talk about the college days, and it was like, bro, I don't even like. Oh, that's just it's different lifetime, and I really believe if you're living
Yeah.
life the right way, it's what it should be. But in those transitional moments where you feel okay, it's time to like shed that skin, like say who you want to become in that moment. And when you get those little feelings, because what that does, I think, is especially for myself anyways, it like bullies me into like fully shedding that skin. Like
Mm-hmm.
the psychedelics in the past year and a half, that was like it's such a shed the skin moment of like, oh, this is the next evolution of who you are. And there's so many steps back too. And I think that's one of the things where people get so stuck is like they take that step forward to shed the skin, and then they realize, oh fuck, I got to take 12 steps back to get to even where I was, and then it's going to allow me to go forward. But those 12 steps back where you're just sitting in that abyss, or even going backwards from where it was, and you're just like, I don't want to do that. I'd hold on to the whatever character avatar I'm wearing right now. And I think putting it out there, and again, it doesn't matter how you put it out there, but maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's social media, maybe it's a journal, where it's just like, I felt this is who I want to become, and I felt this very clearly, because you have those moments where it's like, oh, this is who I am right now, but it's not always that clear, because again, you bump back between these characters, and once you have that clarity, I really think it's important to write that down, share that, and then let people or the universe or whatever you believe in bully you into fully shedding that skin and becoming that person.
Do you set New Year's resolutions?
No, not resolutions. I have like goals this year
Yeah.
into like posting on YouTube. Like that was a goal for me. Posting on YouTube
Yeah.
and having a tangible product were like two 2024 goals for me. So I bully myself into doing it.
Yeah. I think that's where I would say if lost me, old version of me is listening. It's like New Year's resolutions are fake. They don't work. What I have learned is like posting something, setting a goal, like, oh, I'm going to do calendar club for a full year, and then posting about that. I have to then become the person that can accomplish that over
Hmm.
time. And that's a process instead of setting a bunch of resolutions that there's no end goal in mind. I feel like there's just like, oh, I want to get in, uh, eat healthier or just some resolution. It's like start with the goal and then, well, fuck it. I have to become the type of person that accomplishes that goal.
Yeah. I mean, that's so good. And again, that brings me to like stop. I don't know why that triggered it, but it's like, you got to have something that triggers that daily like sacrifice for that goal, like
Yeah.
it cannot, like you said, it cannot be that vagueness. It needs to be every day I'm going uh, to become that, whatever it
Yes.
is for
Yes.
you. But it cannot, like you said, when it's vague, all it is it's just you don't believe in who you are so you're not willing to put your nuts on the line to go and become it, because if you do that, and this is where it's like, for me anyways, there are so many. The amount of times I've talked about YouTube, and I purposely haven't written it down because I wasn't ready to go do that because of being a little
Yeah.
pussy. Like it's so crazy. But I write it down and I just got it on a post-it note. That's all I have to do for me, and I'm at a level where I can do that. But for whatever it is for you, but you have to find a spot where it's like, if I write something down, I have to do it. Otherwise, I am a complete piece of shit in my head. So like I write down, we'll post on YouTube once a week, and then once I write that down, it's done. It's easy for me because I know it's my like thing I have to go do. Same with like the daily sacrifice. I just think we've lost a lot of that. And again, it's everything is so vague. Community, it's get in shape, it's whatever. None of those things are bad, but it's like you don't start with the end. You gotta start here. You gotta start
Yeah.
here, become something worth giving to the outwardness, to the vagueness. But you can't clear all that up without any inward clarity.
Do you do you think you know why to start?
I used to think that. I don't think so. I don't know. That's a good
Yeah.
question, because I don't know, man. Like we used to
Yeah.
talk about we used to talk about this at St. Thomas, like a deep understanding of a why, because that why can change every single day. We used to talk about that at St. Thomas, and I was fucking drinking that Kool-Aid hard. But it's like, man, it's just you gotta. I think I what recently I'm more, are you doing your duty as a human being every single day? Like, and I don't know if that's a why. I don't think that's a why. It's just like, did I do my duty as a human being today? Did I sacrifice today to become who I want to become, or who I like? There's a lot of indebtedness that really helps me motivate myself of like, you had so many people put this into you and you're fucking whatever, snapping, you're whatever it is, your thing. It's like, bro, and not even just like recent, not even your parents, but your grandparents and their parents and their parents. And like, they got you to this fucking point where you are blessed, where you're talking to one of your best friends over a fucking Zoom camera and you have thousands of people listening and you're getting paid to have this conversation. Like you are in one of the most blessed times, not one of the most best in human history, and you're fucking taking a nap, like a lot of
Yeah.
those things. So I don't know if there's a deeper why other than that. And what's really been motivating me recently has been that just do your job as a human every single day and accept that. And again, that because I was getting out in a lot of that because I was always doing it for a massive end thing or something out there, and I wasn't ever in the daily sacrifice. I wasn't ever in the daily run. I wasn't ever in the daily lift, whatever it was. It was always like I was doing that lift for something else. I was swinging that
Mm,
bat for something else. I was making that post for the fall, like for the eventual like piece of candy at the end. And
mm,
one of the biggest eye openers recently is like, you just need to do that for that. You need to have this conversation to have this conversation. You need to swing that bat and not just swing the bat, but you need to swing every single swing for that singular swing, for that singular lift. And when I switched over to that life, I got a lot more fire in my belly again, just of like
mm.
appreciating the smaller moments and not in, man, that sounds so fairy, but like, man, just being there and doing what you're supposed to do every single day rather than, oh, this is to get to some certain amount of followers. And then that's the funny
Mm.
thing is like once you start approaching it in that way, your art becomes so much better. And then everything else happened. Again, you started here and it expanded outward rather than trying to start with the outward. Even if you are doing the inward, I just think there's a way you get lost in that.
I have had that switch over the last 2 to 3 weeks, particularly with the content that I've been making and posting. And it almost sounds like what you're saying is like having the end goal in mind or having that. Because for me, when I think of why, I think of, I know it, I can visualize it here, I can feel it here. But whenever I try and distill it down into words, it loses all of its meaning. Like it's not something that's meant to be brought to words. And anytime you do that, it's like it loses its meaning.
Mm.
And so for me, yeah, just having that end goal in mind, holding it loosely, not holding on too tight, but also realizing that in order to get to where I want to go, yeah, it's those daily steps and being ultra connected to the day and not ultra connected to the end of what that day will bring.
And giving your like again, I think that doesn't negate having objectives, but treating I mean, after the psychedelics is and it's all a video game, bro. And you just need
Yeah.
to like video game. You're like having the calendar club. And I'm not saying the calendar club is something soft where it's like you're playing a video game, you're running all those miles, but it's like having those mini games throughout your life as objectives for me is very effective of okay, I'm just playing this game in this moment continually for like something to do in this time and this character of Austin. Um to continually evolve into the next character
Mm,
while still being there. Because I don't think all of like I don't think getting rid of like I think having your calendar club objective, having that end goal in mind is beautiful. Like having things like that is a massive motivator for people. So I don't want to like get rid of that part of it while also staying like one of the things that I love that you talked about is like hearing the step, like the patter, 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 pat,
hmm.
like balancing the two things of like the mini game of like the overarching goal with hearing your footstep every single step, and that's what's going to get you to that mini to complete that mini game.
Yeah, it's I mean, specifically with this challenge, it's thousands upon thousands of steps, but like all I got today is 4 miles and I can't worry about what happens at the end of this month. I just got to focus on today. And it sounds, yeah, it's like that. It's cliche. It's like you got to focus on what's right in front of you. But ultimately, when you do that, you set yourself free of all the other, barriers that you put on yourself.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned too was your YouTube and how recently that's been freeing you up, and that's something that I a lot about
Yeah.
too. It's like how it has allowed you to play the like again. I think that's a good example probably of how people get trapped in characters. Like you get trapped in characters,
Mm,
whether it is social media or not. But it's like you have certain people there. You like I think about when I go back home, man. It is like my body evolves back into home Austin.
Mm,
Every time I bring with me, I bring my computer, like I'm gonna get shit. I get no, and that's not to say it's not the worst thing in the world. Like I get to relax but every time, and I
yeah.
like go into a shell, a younger version of Austin where I'm like hanging out with my parents, like having them cook for me. No, I'm not reading books. I'm playing video games. Like it's weird. Like but you're like trapped in that version of that person. And if you never leave that thing, and what I've seen, and which is really cool, because I've done the same thing with the Yoakum Strength Insider page, is like when you have that outlet to like, okay, I know who I want to become, but I'm kind of trapped in whatever outlet it is. Maybe it's your hometown, maybe it's your social media that you're currently in. When you just have an outlet to not even anonymously, but like nobody really knows you and you can fully be yourself in that
Yeah.
setting, man. It is so cool to feel that growth piece because it's like, man, I'm free now to go do whatever I want to do and seeing the growth and feeling like that feeling. And I feel like as weird as it is, like you going to YouTube and doing stuff like that is relatable to a lot of people, like just moving out of their current environment they are stuck in and the
Hmm.
person they're stuck in and going to something new and just how freeing that can be.
Yeah. I think it's well to someone who's in their hometown and feels stuck. It's like if you feel stuck and you are in your hometown, then you need to get out. Like you need to move out. Yeah. I most certainly felt with YouTube because nobody knew me.
And same thing even like college too, like college, but like like it's that I think that go like the continual like evolution of who you are. It's like I think you have to find new environments almost every 3 to 4 years to continue on that path. Otherwise, like we're such creatures of habits that we just stuck in these ruts of just whether it's good or bad, continuing to be the same person. And I feel like every time I've had a move or a experience that was just completely out of the normal, the growth, like it's an instant shedding of the skin of, oh, this is who I could become. This is the next step in who I could become.
Well, and the people that you're around are always only going to see you for what you've done or what you let them in on. Like I'm 10 steps ahead in my mind of all the things that I'm moving towards. And by the time that those things come into the present, I'm already past those things. Whereas everybody around me is just experiencing those for the first time. And there's that residual effect of the Mark 2 years ago that still people are still like catching up to.
Mm.
And so that transition period, it's going to be harder. There's always going to be that transition period, and that transition period from your self identity and how it translates out to people around you is it just takes longer. And that's why I think it's important to have people that you can share your long term visions with, or the direction that you want to go, so you don't feel alone in that path.
And I think that comes back to what we talked about at the start. It's like that solo mission. Like so many people just need a solo mission. They need to get the fuck out of where they are at currently,
Yeah.
and they need to go run a calendar club at it in a different like they need to go become a different person. Like if people knew
Yeah.
you 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and that this is the funny thing is like the people ask me like, do you think Dowdle's actually going to go finish that calendar? I'm like, you don't know fucking Dowdle if you're asking that question. Like that's a
Yeah. Yeah.
dumb
Yeah.
question. Like, you might know college Dowdle, like, but you have no idea who Dowdle like that's a stupid question because the answer it's not even a question, like he's gonna
Yeah.
go do it. He'd rather have like he's gonna have someone push him in a wheelchair if he has both legs cut out,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's what's gonna happen for him to do this. But I just feel like you're never like man, if you're never alone in that self search to who you could become, I just feel like you're never going to elevate, man, because you're always around the same, and that doesn't mean the crowd again like since college, I wouldn't say I've been around a bad crowd. Like
Mm,
it's just it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's a crowd that will trap you into the character that you were because that's who they know you as. Again, it's
yeah,
not
and it's who
bad
they
people.
who star they like, who they began to like was that
Yes,
version of you.
yes. And so like if you never leave that, you never go on that. I mean, the pilgrimage, like the self search to God is for you, your universe, like that just made trigger the thoughts there. It's like that's such like a knowledge of like you need to leave where you're at to go become who you need to become. And maybe back, and this is what I think too. This is a random rant I'm just thinking about right now. It's like back in the day that might have been college for people, like
Mm,
so
mm,
now it's like this virtue signal of like, yeah, I went to college and became somebody different. But like college nowadays, bro, it's just home. Like, bro,
yeah.
it's such like a comfort. Like it's not nobody's going to college and really like I don't know. It's not like an out there experience. It's like you're kind of going to a college of people that think like you think, are like exploring the ideas, especially in your major, like they're clones of you. You're going to a college of
Yeah.
clones of you and people in that,
Yeah.
and that can be
Yeah.
good, but it's not like that actual pilgrimage that maybe it used to be. So now I feel like people need to find that pilgrimage. They need to find that spiritual journey to find out who they are. And I really believe physical pursuits can be that for a lot of people.
Well, it's funny because you pick the college. The whole reason you go on like college tours is because you want to pick the college and university that you feel most comfortable at.
Mhm.
And so already baked into that is like you're going to the place that you feel most comfortable with people that you yourself becoming friends with, people that are like-minded. And it's like, so already you're setting yourself up to be around people that you're coming from the place at. And one of the things that I found so incredibly, like I'm so incredibly grateful for with the company I'm at is I would go on these 5 to 7 week long business trips of living out of the van. And it was such a great opportunity for me to step away and be on the road alone for 7 weeks where I could remove myself from all the people that I was around.
Mhm.
And then, Mark's almost forgotten about. I'm not interacting with those people. I am really going on this soul search. And and then I could reevaluate the relationships that I've had, the people that I surround myself with, how I interact in those relationships, and then I can re-enter it in a way that is like, okay, this is who I am, and this is who I want to become more of, and that, yeah, that like away from all the comforts that you build around you, because it's the same thing as like sitting in the cold tub after you get out of the sauna. If that water is still, your body creates that like warm glow around you.
Mhm.
But as soon as that water starts to move, all of that comfort that your body has built around itself gets washed away and you're fucking cold again. And so it's like you have to move through the water in order to find a new comfort zone. And then you have to know that, oh, I'm here again. And you have to have the mental ability to be like, I got comfortable again. I need to go on another journey.
Yeah, and again, like you said, to do that, you have to move the water. You have to voluntarily move that water. Or,
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to voluntarily. It could, I mean, that's why like getting fired, breakups, like family deaths are such a big enlightenment moment for a lot of people because then it's forced water. I mean, that's the whole thing of the flood is coming though, too. It's like it's going to happen. You either voluntarily embrace the flood and force that water shake and embrace what's going to happen, or somebody's going to drop a rock right next to you and you're going to have to deal with that wave of water coming through. But I like you have to voluntarily face the pain that's going to happen when you shake the around you. And
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people it's hard to start. And I mean, same with us too. It's like you think about
Yeah.
like way back in the day of like when we first started doing those things, how much harder, like it is so much easier for me to become a new avatar, a new person now and do that shake than it was before. And I think a lot of it is just like I have enough faith in myself to know, and faith from data points of, okay, whenever you faced this last situation where it required you to change, you changed, you adapted, and it better for you in the long run. Whereas when we started, we didn't have those data points. So when that pain came and whatever, the shaking of the water in the ice tub came, you're like, oh fuck, this sucks. I was in a good space. Now I'm not. Like, I suck now. What's going to happen? Whatever, whatever. So it takes way longer than where it does now. And I think bracing that for a lot of people and just having them like have enough faith in themselves. And actually, it'll bring a rant too. I was like talking to my mom about that because she wants to leave her job and do like open up her own tax thing. And that was one of the things like I had to like, I had to down and like talk to her. I'm like, Mom, just have enough faith in yourself. Like, you've survived all of these things where you're living in a trailer house, you had a kid at one, like all these data points you have backing yourself up of like you guys have continually
Mm,
figured it out through the like rough patches. The same thing will happen here. Like that's what you guys do. You guys figure it out. And I think people are much better at figuring things out than they have like enough faith in themselves to know. And once you accept like, oh, regardless of what happens, if I had to go sleep on the floor, like I like again, like what if everything fails and is taken away from me now, you banned, whatever, your gym gets shut down. I know I can go sleep on a floor for years and then make it again. Like and I think proving to yourself that you can survive those evolutions and survive those shaking of the water is very freeing because now you and I can go we're like, we know, like you can go live in a van. Worst
yeah.
comes to worst, you go live in a van and Lucy's
Yeah.
gonna come with you, like you're
Yeah.
set there.
There is a difference though when it comes to, like you said, you can shake the water yourself, or it can be shaken for you. Like there is a difference in when it's when you when it's done for you, when you get fired, when you get broken up with, like it steals a little power from you.
Mm.
It steals a little bit of the choice where, like in an old relationship I had, like I knew the end was coming. And the thing I feared most wasn't that it was going to end, but that I wouldn't have the courage to end it, even though I knew it was over.
Mm.
And so there's a sense that I even feel now with a work relationship I have, but it's like when you know something's gonna end and you know something's not for you, and you just wait to ride it out until the choice is made for you, there's no courage in that. You don't get that freedom. Like when you're talking about your mom, it's like if she makes that choice, and this kind of goes to the post you made the other day about the ultra runners and the cold stuff like that. It's like when I'm in an ultra, I always know that like I chose to be here.
Mm.
And so at any point, if I get down or it gets too hard, it's like, oh wait, I chose this. This isn't happening to me, it's happening for me, because at the end of the day, I signed up for this. And I know going into that challenge, when I reflect back and say, no, like this hurts, this is how it's supposed to feel, and I chose this. But when something happens to you, I don't know, I feel like it's much easier to play the victim role and be like, oh, this sucks because like I got fired. It's easier to talk about that with people who are like, oh, it sucks because I got broken up with. It's like, no, take the power and have the courage to do something about it, because you know you can.
Yeah, and that's so true. It's such a cancer again. So it is easier to share that news. It's like
Yeah.
you didn't get fired, bro. Like you knew that was gonna happen. You like, bro, the amount of, oh man, this how I know I'm getting older too. Cause like I talk to like 21, 22-year-olds about like relationships and like, yeah, I got broken up with, like just didn't see it coming. I'm like, you didn't see it coming. Like I'm talking, I know it was coming. I'm talking to you right
Yeah.
now. You're a shit show, dude. Like, and that's okay. You're a 21, 22-year-old dude. You're a shit show, bro. But like, of course that was coming, dude. Like you can't have your shit together for this lifting session. Of course you don't have it together for the relationship. Like, so it's like, yeah, it's
It's easier for them to feel like, oh, I got broken up with, and then expect your response to feel sorry for them.
yes. It's like, oh, it wasn't me. It's like, yes, yes, it
Yeah.
wasn't you in that moment. You didn't make the
Yeah.
final
Yeah.
decision, but you made the
Yeah.
14 million decisions leading up
Yeah.
to that point, good or bad. Like again, you could the firing could be a thing, the breakup could be a good thing, good or bad. But like it was many decisions before there, and not owning that final decision, I think, again, like you said, takes away a lot of that freedom and a lot of the growth piece to yourself to know when push comes to shove, I make the final decision. Like I know
Yeah.
I have enough courage within myself to be able to do that, and that doesn't make it easy, like that's not something that like comes and you're like, oh yeah, now all these decisions are easy because I did that before. It's like that's total bullshit too. Like every time you face one of those decisions, you're like, motherfucker, bro, like this sucks.
I
Like
know.
you're stuck at that 50-50 road. But yeah, like you said, I think there's a lot you can learn from those moments.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Ownership of the decision. Decisions, decisions,
Decisions.
decisions.
Speaking of that, I'm on a cheesy podcast segue. Speaking of learning from decisions, I know one of the things that people like geek out about is like your lessons you learn when you run. Like
Mm,
what has that been like? So this has been something that I've been like realizing a lot, and this is in a softball swing. It's just like how much you learn both physically, you can learn it mentally, whatever it is, but like physically, just specifically, just like how much you learn in the softball swing by just getting that many reps in, right? Like,
yeah.
oh, I never knew anything about this. I never knew anything about that. I've never felt that before, but you're just giving yourself so many chances for that aha moment. Whereas
Yeah.
running, I feel like you can combine that spiritual and mental side of it, where like you're giving yourself so many aha chances for the like, oh, that's what I was thinking about. This is who I wanted to become. Like, what has that been like getting all of those reps in on the road where you're just trudging along like plot 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 with your feet, getting all of those reps in, like way more miles in than you've ever had in your life, probably combined before in this past year? How much is that like accelerated thought processes, accelerated growth? What has that been like?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lifetime running miles right now is like 11,000. And at the end of this challenge, I will have 6,000. So it'll almost be about half of my lifetime miles will come in this calendar year.
Badass, they got that tracked.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. But the thing that I guess I didn't realize how much the reps mattered until I started getting a ton of questions like, what's your recovery like? Or like, dude, I ran 15 miles yesterday and I've been sore for, 2 days. And it just made me think it's like, oh, like the reason I don't get sore running 15 miles and the next day doing 16 and the next day, doing a consecutive long run is like I've run 15 miles hundreds of times now, hundreds of times.
Mm.
And I think just being out doing something consistently over time, I think it's obvious to see the physical growth because I'm able to put so much load on, but just the mental aspect of things, it's it's something when I it's one of my favorite about ultra, and it's the thing that whenever I see it I get emotional, or whenever I hear another runner talk about it I get emotional, and it puts tears in my and just fills me is when runners talk about in and just feeling completely broken, and like the next step is the hardest step of their life, and somehow they figure out a way to just take one step knowing that they have thousands of more just to move an inch. And I think it resonates with me so well because I've been there before running wise, and I can relate to that feeling. But whenever I think about those moments, I think about me as like a broken person, and me as a person that it's like even when I'm at my most broken, I find ways to forgive myself, and I find ways to understand that it's okay to be broken. Like it's okay to be broken from a physical standpoint, but it's also okay to be broken from like a person standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, a emotional standpoint, and feel helpless and lost, and know that I have the ability to recognize that, feel it, and move forward. And I think that's what the reps have proven to me over the years is like, it's okay. Like it's okay to be where I'm at, and it's okay to feel like I am completely lost in the world, and I feel like I still look at myself as like a piece of shit sometimes, a lot of times, but I know that's like a normal feeling, and I know that over time that feeling of just like being grateful, being humble, and um dude, forgiveness is the reps have really just allowed me to forgive myself because I spend so much time running. I spend so much time thinking while I'm running, and I spend so much time contemplating if I'm a good human. And
Mm.
I think like when I can just be out there and think about those things. I remember I was going back and I looked at some of the notes I had from the last time we sat down, and you asked like what a billboard advice you gave someone recently was, and I wrote down like, if you're pondering the deepest questions of your soul, even if your actions don't meet up with those questions, the fact that you're asking those questions means you're on the right path. And so just I think over time asking myself those deep questions while I'm on the run is like it allows me to work through those and feel like gotta feel lost, but I'm also found at the same time.
Damn. Yeah, that was fucking good. And talking about the like one of the things that I feel like a lot of people like their whole day, they never get an opportunity or an environment in which they are able to go like that thought process you just had. I don't think most people get to a point in which like they are in an environment where they are alone and they are able to think on that level. Like I the amount of times I've gone to that wave that you just talked about and like deeply thought about. But if I'm, but I also know it's like this is a big thing with me for like spirit walks is like when I'm busy all day, I'm around people all day, good or bad people. If I'm just like doing things all day, I'm working on the minute. I don't get to those spirit states where I'm thinking and feeling on the level that you're talking about. And that's where it's a really big eye opener. But again, I have felt that connection. I have felt, oh, this is where you're actually pondering those questions. That's where you're going. There's like this connection to whatever the source is that is feeding you those words and feeding those feelings of it's okay. And that I mean, that's I think one of the beautiful things about psychedelics too is I think it can give people that massive, massive wave of that. And like we all have that if we are able to connect to it. And I think if we set our day up to where you never get a chance to run all those miles or just be alone or just walk or do those things, like you never get to a state in which you can feel that. And as hard as, again, it's not like those feelings are amazing, but it's like, man, the thing I've been like writing down, like it's okay has been something that is repeated to me so many times in my psychedelic like trips every single time. Like it's like a it's like a hug, a warm blanket hug shown at
Mm,
like all that wave of sadness and then just repeated like it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Like I'm like, oh fuck, bro, you've been there with me. Like that's I know exactly what you're talking about. But then it's like this feeling of no matter how hard that feeling is, it's getting to a point in which you can surrender. That's been like kind of
mm,
my big word that I've been writing and journaling about a lot is just being at a state and being in an environment and being comfortable where you can like
mm,
surrender into that and be like again be okay with that and surrender into being okay. And I don't know if man, it's such a weird to talk about if you haven't felt that feeling, but it's like there's so many pieces of armor like I had built up to not surrender into it, you not
mm,
surrender it. And now it's like once I've broken and still in the process of breaking those pieces of armor, but now you see it in other people like, oh man, that is such a armor around that person because they do not want to surrender that. And that's been talking about taking steps back to evolve. Like that's been a big thing. Like this next evolution of me has been trying to understand how to get people to a point in which they are able to drop that armor, in which they're all right with dropping that armor, in which they are feeling that feeling of surrender and being okay, and providing an environment in which they're able to do that too. Like I think that's so important. I don't think it's our society or even talked about or even mentioned because everybody has the armor, everybody, man. And it's like
mm-hmm,
it's such a crazy thing because like this is where it was some mind opener, like mind opener and mind. I didn't even know I had that armor. I knew I was fucked up. I knew I had a lot of things going on. I knew like I had this like anger, all these things, but I didn't know I had armor in the sense of where like all of that was just to protect you from like the ability to surrender into
mm,
whatever we are surrendering into. Like still working on that answer, whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whether it's just love, but like that ability to surrender and that ability to let go, that's kind of, I think, working on that and helping people through that journey and allowing people to know there is an environment in which you can do that.
there's an environment where you can do that, but it doesn't last forever. Like you can have a psychedelic trip. Like my version of the psychedelic trip is like doing an ultra so extreme that I get broken down to my rawest form.
Hmm.
Because in those moments you're completely stripped of all the identities and you're you're broken into like who you are, who you've been, who you say you are, all come to meet the maker in those moments. And that's why it's really important for me to put myself in those positions because if I say that I'm someone but in those moments I'm the complete opposite person, then I can no longer say that I'm that person. And there is a certain level of like chasing the dragon or like only relying on those things to inform you about who you are, but it's like going to that place and then getting an insight, pulling that out, and then moving forward in your day-to-day life to put action behind that, like to be that person.
So I would ask you this. Have you felt something that I have felt is once I broke that armor, now it is again, like you were saying, it is not that now it's the armor's just broken, it's done. Now it's what I do, at least in this is my personal experience. I notice when I have the armor up and I can
Mm,
catch it much quicker and pull it back in and like you said, become that person, fix it in the day to day, focus on the day to day and be like, oh, like you were that's old Austin, that's that armor piece, that's why you're doing that, and then pull it back in, be that. And again, it's not all perfection. It's not like, oh, you noticed it, you fixed everything,
right.
everything's lolly. But have you noticed what first, have you noticed that with yourself? Like when you break down in that ultra and then come back to like, oh, like I have proved it myself. I can come back to that person. This is who I want to be when I'm not being that person. Have you noticed that? And if you have, how it like what are some things that you've done to kind of like I don't know if enhance is the word, but cement that person more? Because that's things I'm working on too. It's like I'm noticing now as like I'm in this process of noticing it more and becoming it more and solidifying it more. And it is kind of a reps game of that too. But it's like the more I notice, which has been really nice. But what's been kind of your experience with that?
Yeah, I think like old me would try and just I would not confront issues. I would not confront how I feel. I would really push those down because I didn't want to deal with them and they'd cause too much stress. So I would do everything I could to avoid those things. But when shit hits the fan, like that strategy destroys you. Like it
Yeah.
destroys me. And chaos happens, destruction happens. The strategy I use or would learn from the deepest, darkest parts of Ultra is that I am strong enough to confront it, even if I don't fully feel like I win the battle. At least I'm able to sit in the ring with it, and it's not gonna like destroy me. Like the feelings, the confronting of the truth, like those things, I'm more able to look them in the eye and speak with them, like have a relationship with them and get to understand and know what it's trying to tell me. Because a lot of the times, it's all just like a reflection of who I am. And so if I'm not willing to look at it in the eye, then I'm missing the opportunity to get to know myself on a deeper level.
Mm.
And so for me, what I've learned is that in order to heal those aspects, in order to grow in those aspects, I do first have to look them in the eye and say, all right, like give me hell, because it's the only way that I'm going to learn um, how to pave a better path forward.
Yeah. And that part's shit too, because you like look at parts of you, you're like, I do not like that part of myself, or
Yeah.
like, like you look at that person, that character, that avatar, that armor piece that you have, and you're like, man, that part of me sucks. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is like, again, what this is how I've written about it and thought about it. It's like I didn't notice the armor pieces on because I couldn't face them. Like I felt
Mm.
like it, so like subconsciously, I just completely ignored completely that they were there, and they were just like inner like completely acting my life out 100% by themselves. They were just doing it. And now it's like, because like noticing those things, noticing the shitty parts of you, noticing like whatever it is, the anger that you have inside, like that, those are not good things. It's not a good feeling. It's not like, oh yeah, that felt great. Like I've like, look at you were a piece of shit there. That was awesome. Like sweet.
Right.
But again, like you said, you have to face that part. Otherwise, you're never going to face it. You're never again, I think people are just they don't even understand that that is like that's just you're on automation mode, Like I just see that. It's like action A is always leads to action B for that person. And like even at the gym, you can see it. It's like you can set people up for situations of like you put them in this environment, this is exactly what's going to happen every single time, and they don't even know what's happening. It's just action A, and then you get into the like, man, that's not a free person there. That's a person
Right.
completely controlled by their avatar, completely controlled by their character in that setting. And trying to break them out and have that conversation with them is it's unbelievably hard, especially when you're trying to do it yourself. But like that's been something like trying to break out of that A to B reaction of like A pause. Okay, you have B, C, D to pick from here in this like in this setting of groups. And that's not to say again, it's not to say it happens every time, but that pause for me has been unbelievably freeing of like, oh, I'm actually making decisions in my life. Like it felt like I was before, but man, it was just like you pissed me off. This is exactly what I did to you. Like that was exactly the pathway. And that's like, okay, I get 7 options here. I'm actually pausing. I'm actually feel like I'm somewhat present. I feel like I have some control of my life now. Whereas before, I felt like there was this background anxiety because deep down I knew there wasn't control of my life, but you don't really know. Like, like you're not even like at that level of awareness yet.
Yeah. Well, the word you used that resonated well with me was from before was surrender. Like I think when for me at least, and what I think is built into ultras is like you have to surrender. You can't meathead your way through 500 miles. Like you can't do it. And the fact that I was forced to learn that skill in running has allowed me to learn that skill in life. And the way I talk about it while I'm running is like, if this is the best that I'm going to feel over the next 9 days or the next 500 miles or the next whatever, then I better learn to find the positives. Like I better learn to enjoy this moment, because if I don't, if like this is the worst moment, then when it does get even lower, because it will get even lower, like that's going to be soul crushing. Like this needs to be a new high for me, instead of like my lowest low, because it's only going to get lower. And so the confrontation doesn't have to be petty or like white knuckling. It is very much a surrender and a release, and allowing that to those, like that negative feeling or those negative truths or the things that you don't want to learn about yourself. Like there is a peace that comes, and a peace as in like a piece of, but also peace of mind, where you surrender to it, you release to it, because ultimately, like you have to, you can't fight with it, you got to dance with it.
And then that's the last two books that I just read was the Nietzsche book and the Radical Acceptance, but it's all kind of that Buddhist way of thinking of like there's so much beauty in the suffering. And like most of the suffering that we have is because we attach suffering to it, you know? It's like doesn't matter how bad or shitty you feel or whatever it is, like there's so much there if you're just there. And that was
Yeah.
one of the big for me. It's like when I talk about like being present in every single swing, you know, like and translating, I like using softball because softball is the dumbest fucking sport ever. Like it is so stupid, it is so silly. Like, but I love using softball as the analogy because it's like if you can do this with the dumbest, silliest, like most goofball sport ever, and then expand it and make your life better from this, like what if you take that process and apply it to your job, or you take that process and apply it to whatever the fuck pursuit that you have, like
Yeah.
that's why, like again, that's a way that I think about it, but it's like that's why I really like that piece of it, is because it's the dumbest thing ever, and look at everything I'm learning from pursuing the dumbest thing ever to my maximum potential, like
Mm,
just because that's the thing, like in our age of information, people get so stuck up in this, like, oh, that or this or that or that something, bro. Like, just go pick something and sacrifice to it religiously every single day and watch your life fucking clear up completely. Like, watch how
yeah.
much you learn from that. Watch how much you clear up from there and watch how much beauty you find in that. But I don't even know where I was starting with that rant, but that just took me in that route. It's like there is much to find, and there's just so many people sit in there like, oh, but this or that or this or that or this or that, and I bring it back. I can't remember which coach said it, but it was like the even like the thing with the maybe it was Coach Caruso, but it was like one of the sayings I actually do like. He's like, if you want a wife, just pick a girl and like make her your wife. Like in that setting of like in this
Mm,
age of information, like just pick something and make it your daily sacrifice and watch how much you learn. And the 20 to like 25-year-old male audience, it's just like there's so much that they're not picking anything, and then they're
yeah.
like all of this sucks, life sucks, there's no meaning, there's no purpose. It's like there's 1,000,000% purpose there. You just got to go find it through a pursuit, and that's what we are put here to do. That's our duty as human beings, is to go pursue something to our maximum potential. And ideally that is something that you have a passion for, ideally that is something that you have a skill set for. But you will find that, like you will find your skill set. You run just enough, you'll find your skill set, you'll find whatever you're
Yeah.
good at. But you're not going to find that by thinking about that. And that's one of my biggest
Mm,
pet peeves in this like generation. It's like thinking, planning, plotting, networking. It's like it's all bullshit to keep you where you are at currently. Go pursue something, balls to the walls, completely fail, understand it's not something you want to do, and take all of the lessons you learn from there and apply it to whatever it is you find. That's the only way you're going to figure out.
well, and I can already hear people say like, I still don't know what to do, I still don't, like, take something you're already doing. Like last night was a great example where I was thinking a lot, I fall asleep, and then I just focused on relaxing the muscles in my face, and like a release. It was just like relaxation. It was just like surrendering. It was just like take something as simple as that, and notice how tense you are, or how, like, even sitting in the chair that you're listening to this right now, it's like just notice how you could be making it such a better situation by
Mm.
just focusing on like little things. Like if you're struggling to get to sleep like I was last night, and then you focus on just relaxing your face and your neck and breathing, it's a completely different situation. And it's like I feel like we're just so blind to the things that we're already doing and we're so focused on, like you said, plotting, planning, and networking, and like
What could
trying to
be.
figure out what to do, what could be. It's like, just look at what you're already doing and fix that.
Yeah. I mean, that's well, I mean, one of Nietzsche's like my favorite things in one of his books, he uses like man either is or he is not. And it's not a process of being is, and it's not a process of being not. It's like you either are or you are not. And you make that decision right now, like it's just you are or you are not. And one of the things I wrote down too when you're talking about like inspiration, he went on a whole like 20-page rant about how bullshit is like people looking for inspiration. I don't look for inspiration. Like I just fucking know that's what I'm gonna do. And like and he was like, and he was this is the thing that blows my mind. It's like he's writing about this in a world where there's no internet, bro. There's no social, there's no distractions, and he's still
Mm.
talking about how people are purposely distracting themselves. He's like, when you know yourself, you know what you're supposed to do. Like, it's just like I have a burning fucking fire to go run. I have a burning fire to go swing that bat. Like you don't need to create this inspiration. It's just this burning thing of I decided I have this burning fucking passion to go do this. I'm gonna go do it. And then you do it and you accept that and you go do that rather than, oh man, there's so many things out there, like that. It's just you're getting rid of that ownership piece.
Well, I mean, I know we talked about Hermosi this morning, but I think he's the one that has a quote is like, thinking about the work isn't the work. Planning the work isn't the work. Like setting up your schedule to do the work isn't the work. Like the only thing that's doing the work is doing the work. Like you have to actually do it in order to see any type of benefit or result or path forward. You have to just start doing it.
And then it simplifies you. And again, that's like it simplifies your life, man. That's like the biggest thing for me. Like expanding on the swings. It's like if you want to get all of your swings in, and you want to become the best softball player ever. Again, this is why I like doing the silly, because like what does that equate to? How do you become the best softball player ever? This silly, silly sport. Okay. That means you have to fix your sleep, you have to fix your diet, you have to lift,
Yeah.
you can't be stressed all the time. You have to recover right. You have to show up to swing every single day. You have to show up to practice every single, like you have to do all of these things for this stupid fucking sport. Like if
Yeah.
you actually pick the thing that you want to be good at, I guarantee it's way harder. Guarantee it's way harder. Good fucking accountant, Like what are you gonna have to do to become a good, like the best accountant in the world? Again, you're gonna have to do all those things I just lifted because you're gonna have to take care of your body. Then you're gonna have to do the special skill set of being an accountant and reading the books and taking the tests, whatever it is. But like when you don't have that passion to become the best in the world and you don't actually like write that down of like I'm gonna become the best in the world at whatever it is. I'm gonna go do something no human has ever done before. You never go through the process of like and you don't understand how much work is required for whatever that is, and how much that cleans up your life because you have to. You don't have choice. If you're gonna become the best in the world at something, like you can't go drink like a degenerate right now and then run your calendar club. Like your body will fucking completely fall apart. So while you have your setting of the calendar club, like it clears up everything else of your life too,
Yeah.
because you have to. When you're running 30 miles a day, you don't get a lot of fucking free choices to go, like, must be nice to have all that time. It's like,
Yeah.
no, dude, you just got to prioritize fucking everything and your day's set. And that's so nice for a lot of people. It's like clears up your life rather than muddies it up.
Well, and you don't even have to go as far as extreme as like being the best in the world. Just be not as shitty as you are right now.
Yeah, that's true too.
Don't be a piece of shit like you've been, you know.
Yeah, and it'll make a lot of progress there. One of the things I want to talk to you about is your social media game recently. So we have a lot of coaches on the podcast that are getting into the social media game or want to learn a lot about that. And I think one of the cool things is you're fucking full in it right now, full starting up on
Yeah.
the YouTube stuff. And obviously the Instagram page has grown a lot too, but now you're like full in it recently.
Yeah.
You want to talk to coach about like the lessons you've learned there and the things you picked up there, whatever direction you want to take that. But people are always interested in how to get into the social media game, how to share your message here, how to build a brand, how to get a community there.
Yeah, I really won't speak too much on how to get a community there because I have no fucking idea. And I think starting with like I'm trying to build a community is something that I've tried in the past and it's failed because it's come with like a transactional piece in mind. I think the transition that I've made in the last couple of weeks is removing my expectation of what a single post is going to do or what a single piece that I'm making is going to do and not make it for like what I see other people on the platform doing, but more like what really speaks to me and what's the type of stuff that I want to share and how what like avenue I want to share it through. I think what's been helpful with the YouTube stuff, and it's opened up like this side of me that's the goofball in me more so, and like not has created around like this posting it and going back and being like, did I go viral yet? Did I get a like this expectation around it, and more just saying, I'm gonna post what I want to talk about, and be ultra consistent with it, and share it from a place that feels like me. I haven't figured it out. I'm figuring it out. But one of the things that's helped me over the last couple of weeks has just been like, I'm making this for people like Austin and people like Kellen and like just and people like Lucy, and just like focusing on the people that I ultimately care about. Like yeah, it's for me, but it's also for like, what do I have conversations with Austin with that light me up and light him up? Like, what are some funny shit that I will talk about with Kellen and with Lucy that will just like get them laughing? And it's like, oh yeah, that's the stuff that speaks to me. Why don't I just post that? Like, why do I care if that doesn't do well or not? So more so just speaking to the people I want to speak to.
Yeah. And once you get to that point of like, you're actually producing from that way, it's so much fun. It is so much fun. Like
Yeah.
memes have been such a game changer for me, because it's like, I got stuck in a trap of like, oh, it needs to be serious. It needs to be serious. And I was like, bro, like, God dang, this is just not fun anymore. And it's like, it's not, I felt very disconnected. It was like 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago now, but I just got to a point where I was like, fuck this, man. Like, none of this means anything. Like, it's like, and I just like, I got back. I like, fuck it, like memes, and I was laughing at. Like, I was like, God damn, this is funny. Like, I hope this makes people laugh. And like, now even my serious content is so much better from there, because it's like serious in a way of like, I actually wanted to have that conversation, not because I was forced to create something serious, because like I felt that message today, or like I wanted to make people laugh today, or I wanted to roast this thing today because I'm having fun with it. Man, how much, again, even just results wise, how much everything grows from there. It's
Yeah.
so much easier. You're just posting shit, and it's like, that was fun. Like, you don't have any pressure, and then it always does better that way, because
Yes.
I really believe people can feel that. Like, they can feel that off you. Like, that guy had a lot of fun making that post. That guy was goofing around on that. Like, and yeah, I think that's the only way to. I shouldn't say it's the only, because you have people like follow me, and I'll run a inch for every follower. So you still
Yeah.
have those
Yeah.
people, and that works,
Yeah.
I guess. But like, for me, long term, I feel like the best way to do it is that fun, like, freeing way. And then it is like, you don't have that pressure anymore. It's like, just,
Yeah.
this is cool.
It sounds kind of weird, and I don't know if you do this or anybody else does this, but like, I'll go back and watch my content of videos I posted over the last year, and I will just like, there's some posts that I just go back and watch every once in a while, as I really like what I made here. Like, I really like what I wrote here. It speaks to me, and it speaks to me today. And then there's like the first 7 months of Calendar Club where I don't even like watching it. And if I don't even like watching the thing that I made, then nobody else is going to want to watch it.
Mm.
And so just going back and looking at the stuff that I enjoy making and I enjoy watching, whether it's now, in 3 months, in a year from now, like, just leaning into making more of that. And funny enough, like, those are some of the stuff that has done the best.
That's such a good point, though. That's really what made me realize. I think having, I don't want to say none of it matters, but like, I think a big opener for me is like, oh my God, is like, I had a reel go viral, and I got 20,000 followers in a day from one reel. And I was like, this is all fucking fake. This is all fake.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't fucking mean a singular thing. I worked so hard for the longest time to get to 10K, posting consistently every day. And now one dumbass reel where I purposely put the doubt, like, I purposely made that thing to be as stupid as possible. Like, I'm like, this is going to be the dumbest one ever. I don't have time to post today. And I made it low IQ on purpose. 20K followers. And I'm like, this is so stupid. This doesn't mean anything. But going back and like looking at some of your old posts, like, what I was realizing, like, I don't even remember writing that. Like, I fucking loved it. Like, those words there,
Dude,
like, I don't even
yes.
remember saying that. Like, I need to go back and like read a lot of that. And that's sort of like,
Yeah.
man, there's so many, like, if I'm not, and that was another freeing point. That was my message I was trying
Mm,
to get. Is like, it was a freeing point of like, I don't even
mm.
remember writing that. And
Mm,
I did enjoy, and I was good, but I don't even remember writing that. Nobody fucking remembers what you post. Like nobody
yeah,
cares.
yeah.
You can, and it frees you up to experiment so much to just like, man, I'm gonna go and fucking wing. Like, let's try this meme. Let's try this. Let's do this. And man, I just think it makes it so much more fun and so much more like the video game that it is. Like social media is a video game. And until you can break out of the matrix of like, oh, it matters, it matters, it matters, you're gonna be trapped. You're gonna be so trapped in the content that you can create.
It matters and it doesn't. I really like that. I really like how you said that because it's like, yeah, if you go back and look at some of your old posts and you're like, holy fuck, I wrote that. Like, this is great. But you forget that, like, yes, people do forget, but I think in the moment that it hits people, that's why I think YouTube is a great resource to share messages because it can live on here forever
Hmm.
and it will matter to someone at point. And so that's not just to say like make a bunch of stupid shit, make a bunch of dumb content and just kind of freeball it, but it is hold it loosely.
Yeah, yeah,
Hold it loosely.
that's been something I'm thinking about too. Is like the balance between it doesn't matter and it does matter, because
Yeah,
like the
it's
like you said,
both.
it does matter, like
Yeah.
it does matter. And when I read shit, like I read other people's stuff, I'm like, that positively affected me. Like Dak is
Yes.
one that I read some of his content, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Like that inspires me. Like that is absolutely everything I want to do. That's money, that's beautiful. But then again, you have the other aspect of it where it doesn't matter. So it's like, yeah, trying to find the balance of it. But again, being free, yeah, like you said, you don't want to be the TikTok person where it's just all bullshit, but deeper message. Again, I think that becomes like this is a thing I wrote the other day. It's like like you and I could create a meme that is more valuable than most people's life's work because we've spent time building up becoming a person worth becoming and doing. So it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like some of these coaches get so pissed off. This is one of the things like I love about memes. It's like you're mad because that meme is worth more than your book. Like that meme right there shared more information and like got out there more than a whole book that you wrote because you focused on like being in this trapped box. It has nothing to do with one person being special and one person not. It's just like you've been thinking in this boxed way of thinking for so long that you're just a clone of everybody else. Whereas like this singular meme that is an out there idea, like in that way, can change so much more than a whole 2,000 page book.
Did you end up listening to the meme podcast that I sent you?
I don't remember that.
Dude, I sent it to you around Christmas time. Go back and listen to it because it
Okay.
just talks about meme culture and how important it is and always has been, but specifically now with exactly what you're talking about with like this meme got more reach than the book you spent a year making. And one of the things I talk about is like meme now, explain later. Like the
Mhm.
power of memes and just getting in front of people and then funneling them into your message. One of some of the examples they use, like one of the examples they use is like whether you like it or not, MAGA is like a meme, and everybody knows what it means. Like everybody knows that meme, and then you can dive into the various meanings that it has. But like that's a meme that's recent in our culture that has like taken by storm, and you just see all these different, yeah, I digress. But like it's meme now, explain later. Like if you want to get your message out, you need to do it in a digestible way and then follow that up with information on the back end.
Yeah, and that's so important on both ends. Like the explain later thing is something I've been realizing too. It's like I meme a lot and I have a lot of like bits that I do. And it's like it's
Yeah.
fucking hilarious for the people that understand the bits. But then it's like I do something where I like make fun of 3x10, say 3x10 coaches. And they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
then you have people that understand what I'm talking about. And they're like, oh, you fucking, what's wrong with 3x10, bro? Like, why can't you program that? Well, that's such a stupid way of thinking. I'm like, you're a moron. You don't understand the deeper, like, I've made so many posts in
Yeah.
the deeper meaning behind what 3x10 means. And there's like so many pieces. But the other piece of it too, it's like, you need to meme now because this is a thing that people get stuck on. It's like when they come to your page or they come to who you are, they're probably not at the level or at the relationship to like just,
Yeah.
and that's what I was getting stuck into. It's like, I was just like coming on them when they came on my pace. It's like, fucking eat it. Like, go
Yeah.
here, and it's like 4 levels removed from where they're at. And then you lose that person. Whereas like, we've seen it at JST. You can funnel somebody into your culture. Like, you can absolutely do it. And once you do, they reach that like fourth stage. They've been with you for 3. Like Maddie's a beautiful example. Like came in
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
talk, was decently normal. Like, oh, this is a baseball athlete that's just a normal dude, and now he's the biggest fucking weirdo we got in the whole gym.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can funnel people in there. You just gotta meet them where they're at when they come in,
Yeah.
and then and that doesn't mean change your message, but like you said, like put it in that meme format, put it out there where it's a funny way. And that's again, I talked about this on the podcast a lot too, but at the psychedelic conference, they brought comedians on, like the Key and Peele
Yeah.
comedians and a bunch of other people. And one of their things was the same exact message. It's like, if you want to change the culture of psychedelics, because the whole conference was about making psychedelics a legit thing. And they're like, why would you bring comedians on if you want to make it legit? And like the power of comedy is you have people that are in the psychedelic world that are all the way over here. And then you have people over here that are like, mushrooms are going to kill my kid. You know, you're never going to take a person from mushrooms are going to kill my kid to all the way over here. But what you
Right.
can do is make them laugh at it. And then when they laugh at it, you can go from here to here. And then maybe you can show them a study that can go from here to like middle ground. And you don't need to pull them
Right.
all the way over into
Right.
like
Right.
everybody needs to be a hippie, but you can just pull that person over. And then again, in that explain later, they're like, oh, like I let down my guard a little bit. You didn't shove this study in my, that's again why I'm so against sauna bros. It's because like they can say right things, but it's such a turnoff to everybody in that fucking sauna because you're just shoving it down their throat of like you're not meeting that person at all where they're at. You're just shoving whatever you just digested. And most of the time it is wrong information, but sometimes it is right information. And it's like you're making that person hate whatever you're talking about because you're shoving it down their throat.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a follow-up, but I lost my train of thought.
Well, yeah, we've been ripping for an 30. You got anything else left to say? It was pretty good.
I did write something
Fuck yeah.
really, really based off emotion. So I'll share if you're cool with that.
I'm 100%.
Because I think it'll honestly speak to me, and that's in a lot of ways in which I write. But I said, in life, we'll find ourselves in the crossfire of love and reality. Reality will keep you safe. It'll comfort you and take care of the basic functions in life. It'll put food on the table, cover insurance costs, and put a roof over your head. Love, though, love will drive you mad. There's no guarantee that it will provide that of which reality can offer. But if you see it through and it works, it'll be the first meal you truly ever taste. Ensure the stress of the what ifs be rid forever and turn that roof over your head into a skylight of endless possibility.
Fuck yeah. Who was I in the sauna with? I wanna branch off with that. Oh, it was Simon. I was in a sauna with Simon. And the other day he was like, yeah, most people, he said something like, I'm all right. What did he say? He's like, he's an older climber and he's saying that he's all right, he might not make it. There's something along those lines. And I said something like, the logical side of me wants to agree with you, but the side of me that loves you wants to tell you that's a fucking stupid ass way of thinking. Like that's a stupid way of thinking. As soon as you think that way, that's gonna happen in that way. It was like you cannot pursue things in the way of reality. Like you got to pursue things in the way of love to taste that meal and fall on your sword for that meal.
Yeah.
We fixed the mic, but yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me. This is
Thank
fun.
you guys for listening. Keep chopping wood.
Thank you for listening. Join us next week as we dive down another rabbit hole. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star rating. Follow us on Instagram at Austin Yoakum to stay updated on future podcast guests. Keep chopping wood.